1. Introduction. A quiet strength. There is a certain quiet strength in those who never beg for love. They do not demand it, plead for it, or chase after it. They do not barter their dignity for the warmth of another's approval. At first glance, this may seem like pride. Perhaps even arrogance. But it is something deeper, a way of being that flows from a certain understanding of what love truly is. These people know that love cannot be taken by force. It cannot be bought, earned, or pleaded for. Love must arrive freely, and it must arrive willingly. To beg for love is to confuse it with need. But to receive love without begging is to meet it with freedom. This is not a rejection of love, it is the highest form of it. It is the psychology of those who stand in their own completeness, inviting connection without dependence, offering affection without desperation. 2. The inner landscape, self-sufficiency and self-respect. The foundation of this psychology is a deep self-sufficiency. Those who never beg for love have learned to cultivate a relationship with themselves first. They know that the deepest need, for validation, for acceptance, for belonging, must be met within. This self-sufficiency is not loneliness. It is a fullness that comes from knowing one's own worth independent of another's affection. Psychologically, it is rooted in self-respect. They understand that love that must be begged for often comes with a cost, the erosion of dignity, the surrender of self. In refusing to beg, they preserve their integrity. They say to themselves, "I will not trade who I am for the promise of someone's approval." This is a radical act in a world that teaches us to prove our worth through others' eyes. 3. The psychology of detachment. It is not that they do not desire love, they do. But they have learned a form of detachment. Detachment here is not indifference. It is clarity. It is the ability to see love for what it is, not as a lifeline, but as a gift. In psychological terms, this is the difference between attachment and love. Attachment is rooted in fear, fear of loss, of emptiness, of being unworthy. Love rooted in attachment demands proof. It clings. It pleads. Detachment releases the need to prove one's value. It allows love to exist without demand. It allows the heart to remain free, open to connection without losing its self-independence. This is the psychology of people who never beg for love. They have cultivated the inner freedom to choose without needing to grasp. 4. The role of boundaries. A crucial part of this psychology is the practice of boundaries. Those who never beg for love understand that love thrives in the space between two whole beings. They protect their boundaries not to keep others out, but to preserve the integrity of the relationship. Psychologically, boundaries are the guardians of self-worth. They say, "I am worthy of love as I am. If your love cannot meet me here, I will not diminish myself to chase it." This creates a deep sense of emotional stability. They are not pulled into cycles of desperation. They do not lose themselves in proving their worth. Instead, they stand firm in the knowledge that love is not survival, but choice. 5. The wisdom of self-containment. There is an ancient wisdom in this self-containment. Those who never beg for love carry within them a silent understanding. Love is not the source of their happiness, they are their own source. This does not make them cold or distant. On the contrary, it makes their love deeper. Because they offer love freely, without expectation or fear. This is why they do not beg. They know that love offered in desperation cannot be pure. They understand that true love is not a bargain, but a gift given willingly. In their hearts, they hold this truth: love that must be begged for is not the highest form of love. It is a shadow of it. The highest form is offered freely, without conditions, without fear, without demand. 6. The psychology of quiet confidence. Those who never beg for love possess a quiet confidence. It is not the loud confidence of the boastful, but the calm certainty of someone who has looked within and found enough. They do not seek validation. They do not depend on others to affirm their worth. They stand in their own truth. This quiet confidence transforms how they love. They are not lovers of possession, but lovers of presence. They do not try to hold on to another person. They allow love to flow naturally, and in that freedom, love becomes more profound. Psychologically, this is a powerful state. It removes the anxiety of conditional love. It allows relationships to exist on the basis of mutual choice, not desperate need. 7. The depth beyond begging. To never beg for love is not to close one's heart. It is to open it wider. It is to understand that love is not about scarcity, but about abundance. It is to trust that the heart, when whole in itself, will attract love naturally. This psychology teaches that love does not come from pleading, but from living authentically. When you know your worth, when you honor yourself, you stop chasing love and begin living in a way that invites it. This is why people who never beg for love often find it, not because they refuse it, but because they embody it. Their lives become a silent invitation: love me if you will, but I do not need you to survive. That is the power of their psychology, a love that is given without loss of self, a love that is free, and therefore, eternal. 8. The roots of self-love. At the heart of the psychology of people who never beg for love lies a profound truth: you cannot receive what you do not already possess. They have learned to cultivate self-love, not the kind that is born of vanity, but the kind that grows quietly in self-awareness. Self-love is not a loud proclamation, nor is it a fragile ego. It is a deep knowing, a recognition that your worth is not defined by another's affection. Psychologically, self-love is the antidote to desperation. When you love yourself fully, you no longer feel the need to beg for love. Because your heart is already nourished. This is why they can love freely. They are not looking to another to complete them. They are already whole. They have turned inward, found the source of love within themselves, and therefore can extend it without demand. 9. The difference between desire and need. There is a fine but vital difference between desire and need. Desire flows from freedom. Need flows from lack. Those who never beg for love understand this difference deeply. They desire connection, but they do not need it to survive. This distinction changes everything. When desire is free of need, it becomes pure. It does not clench or clutch. It does not plead or bargain. It offers without expectation. When need dominates, love becomes a transaction. You offer yourself to receive in return. It is no longer love, but a contract forged in dependency. The psychology of those who never beg is rooted in the liberation of desire, a desire that dances freely because it is not chained to survival. 10. The courage to let go. To never beg for love requires courage. It means risking rejection. It means facing loneliness without panic. It means trusting that your worth is not defined by who stays or leaves. This courage comes from a deep sense of self. They have learned that letting go is not the loss of love, but the preservation of integrity. In letting go, they make space for something more authentic to arrive. They understand that clinging to love often destroys it. Jungian psychology teaches that clinging comes from the ego, from fear of being incomplete. To let go is to release control and allow life to unfold. Those who never beg for love practice this letting go daily. They meet love as it comes, without desperation, without demand. And in doing so, they discover that love flows more freely than they ever imagined. 11. The role of boundaries in love. Boundaries are the silent language of self-respect. For those who never beg for love, boundaries are sacred. They do not erect them out of fear, but out of understanding. Boundaries protect the heart from being reduced to a commodity. They say, "My love is not yours to take by force. It is given, freely, and only in reciprocity." Psychologically, boundaries create a healthy space where love can grow without suffocation. They are not walls, but gates, allowing entry only to those who choose to meet another with respect and presence. In this way, boundaries are a form of self-love and an offering to others. They preserve the purity of the connection. 12. Love without desperation. The psychology of never begging is ultimately the psychology of love without desperation. It is love that flows from abundance, not from lack. It is love that chooses to remain free rather than clinging to survival. This kind of love is rare, because it requires a deep inner work. It requires healing the wounds that make us plead for affection. It requires cultivating self-worth beyond the gaze of others. It requires courage. But it is the purest form of love, the one that gives without training, that connects without controlling, that exists without needing proof. Those who live in this psychology know something profound. Love that is begged for is not love at its highest. Love that is freely given is a reflection of the soul's highest truth. 13. The shadow of begging. Begging for love is born of the shadow, the wounded part of the psyche that believes it is not enough. It is the voice inside that says, "If they leave, I will disappear. If they do not choose me, I am nothing." That shadow lives in everyone to some degree. But those who never beg for love have faced it. They have looked into that fear and asked, "What if I am enough, even without another's affection?" To answer yes to that question is to step into a new psychology. One where love is not a necessity, but a choice. One where connection is not survival, but a shared joy. That is the freedom of those who never beg for love. They have walked through their own darkness and returned whole. 14. The inner freedom. The psychology of those who never beg is rooted in freedom. It is freedom from dependence. Freedom from the fear of rejection. Freedom from the need to prove worth. This freedom is not given by the outside world, it is cultivated within. It is the product of self-knowledge, self-love, and acceptance of one's own worth. When this freedom is established, love becomes an offering, not a transaction. It becomes a choice made from fullness, not a plea born of emptiness. They stand in this freedom and offer love without fear, without bargaining, without asking for proof. This is the ultimate expression of the psychology of never begging for love. 15. The final reflection, the power of self-worth. Those who never beg for love carry an unshakable truth: their worth is not granted by others, but claimed by themselves. They have learned that love cannot be forced. It cannot be demanded. It must be offered freely, and it must be chosen freely. This psychology is not coldness. It is depth. It is a quiet strength that comes from knowing, I am enough. I have always been enough. From this place, love becomes pure. It becomes an exchange of souls, not a survival tactic. It becomes a dance of equals, rooted in respect, freedom, and mutual choice. To never beg for love is to love without fear. It is to stand in your own wholeness and invite another to join you, not to fill what is missing, but to share what is already complete. And in that sacred stance, love becomes not a need, but a gift. Final words: the psychology of those who never beg for love is the psychology of dignity, freedom, and inner abundance. It is a reminder that love's highest form is not earned or pleaded for, it is freely given from the fullness of the heart.